What's up guys, JayzTwoCents here, and we're here at Micro Center in Tustin with Roberto, who was the grand prize winner of the $2,500 Micro Center shopping spree that I raffled off on day 2 of SoCalTech Fair. We're gonna walk around with Roberto today. We're gonna talk about what he maybe already has or doesn't has, or why he picked some of the parts that he did. And then we're gonna see how we can stretch that money as far as possible. And because Micro Center didn't even know that I was doing this, and I think I already told you, they just decided they'll give us employee pricing on stuff. Wow. Which means that we're gonna get even more for that 2,500 bucks.
That's exciting.
Are you ready to go melt a credit card?
Yes, sir, let's do it.
The all-new Silent Loop 3 from Be Quiet is finally available in the United States and features a new damped pump design with a 6-pole motor for ultra-quiet operation, giant cold plate with Threadripper compatibility, tasteful and minimalistic RGB design, and is available in 240, 360, and 420mm variant, providing plenty of cooling for even the most demanding CPUs of today. The refill port and provided coolant mean you never have to worry about evaporation leading to pump failure, providing a longer life and less downtime and cost for your rig. To see the full list of specs and features, follow the sponsored link in the description below. Okay, so you've had a few days now to sort of kind of shop online and figure out how you want to spend the money. You have a full cart here that's it's a full PC as far as I can tell. So what I'm gonna do real quick, because you didn't know about the EP pricing at that time, is I'm gonna have them put it in the computer.
Okay.
1, make sure everything's in stock. Okay. 2, see what that current total comes out to. Okay. And then we'll see what we can do to try and maybe we can swap out some parts for a next tier up or something like that.
Okay.
But before we do that, I wanna ask, do you already have a PC?
Yes.
And are you using any parts from that old PC, or are you building a whole new tower?
A whole new tower.
Okay. All right, so what's your current tower consist of?
So right now I have a SFF H1 case. I have Asus Strix, I think it's a B550i or
okay.
5060i.
So it's an AM4 board?
Mm-hmm.
AM4, okay.
Yep, AM4. And I have a 1080.
Okay. So this is going to be a huge upgrade for you.
Huge upgrade.
What are you going to do with the old one?
I think my uncle might use it. We like sim racing a lot.
Oh, perfect. That's still a very capable sim setup.
Yeah, it does very well. I recently got a VR, a Quest 3, and I'm trying to do VR sim racing. So my current setup doesn't hold up for that.
So why don't you go ahead and read off your list here of what you got so far.
Galahad 2, Y60 modern case, RMX 1200X, okay. Uni fan, Infinity fan, an AMD Ryzen 7
7800X3D. That's like the GOAT still.
I bundled that together.
Oh, nice, okay.
With the G-Skill Flare X5 series.
32 gigs, 2 16-gig sticks of DDR6000 CL36.
Asus B650A ROG Strix gaming.
So that bundle cost was, where is that at? Yeah, 600 for that bundle, not bad at all.
990.
4 terabyte 990 Evo Plus, okay.
PSU sleeved extension kit.
Oh, and the GPU, we still have to talk about GPU.
So the GPU, AMD Radeon RX 7900 XT.
All right, let's do this then. Let's have them put it in the computer and we'll see what that total comes to with EP.
Okay.
And then I think we might be able to make some small adjustments there that are actually better, not better in the sense of you made wrong choices, but we could maybe like tier up that motherboard or something.
Sounds good.
Let's see what we got. All right, so we put everything in the computer here to get what the current price would be. We're at like $2,560 or something like that with tax. I'm not worried about the tax part of it. Now, one thing we did, so the Corsair RAM, I just want to point this out. It was an upgrade to the bundle. Because you know, the bundle here at Micro Center, you can have CPU, motherboard, or CPU, motherboard, RAM, and then some of them are even CPU, motherboard, RAM, and GPU sometimes. But then they have little options that are like, hey, if you want to upgrade to this RAM at 32 gigs or 64 gigs, it's an additional X price. So you had upgraded it to the 64 gigs of the Corsair Vengeance. So that's what that was.
Yes, correct.
And that was an additional 125. Do you remember on your phone, do you still have what it shows the 32 gig was? I just want to kind of compare. I want to make sure we're not throwing too much RAM at your system today that you won't benefit from if there's something we could benefit from that extra money from today, if that makes sense. What I want to do right now is I want to take a look at some of the GPU prices and stuff. I want to make sure that we're not spending $115 on RAM. That might make more sense somewhere else. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So let's start collecting these parts and let's see if we want to change anything along the way. I'm gonna let you do the honors. 7800X3D, where are we at? They're over here somewhere.
All right.
Let's go with this for right now instead of the 64 gig and see what we can spend that 110 bucks in. If we can't find a place to spend it that makes sense, we'll just grab the 64.
All right, let's do it.
All right, fun part, GPU.
GPU.
Personally, the way I segment my builds is a third of the budget should go to the GPU, a third of it. And then what you can fit in that other third usually keeps you within balance. All right, go ahead and grab that white Merc 310 on top. The 20 gigabyte cards, I forgot that 20 gigs. You have a 1200 watt RM shift power supply in there. The price jump between 1000 watts to 1200 watts tends to be pretty big. Now we've already saved $115 by going from 64 gigs of RAM, which are not going to benefit your use case today, by going to the 32 gigs of RAM. An RM1000, it says $189, $230. So that is now what? 40 bucks right there alone, right? So now we have $165, whatever the math works out to. We've now made up the gap to go here.
Okay.
By making those two changes. I would hate to have you have less performance today than reducing your power supply to 1000 watt to take that card and trade it in for an XTX. Does that make sense?
Yes.
What we need to do now is we need to do some power supply shopping to see if we can even find a better deal than spending $230 or $189 on 1000 watt if there's another brand that we can go with to save even another 20 or 30 bucks.
Okay,
So,
let's do it.
169? Okay, so this is already $20 cheaper than the Corsair. Okay, so now we know we have $115 back from 230 down to 169? Yeah. So 60 bucks back right there.
Sounds good.
Should we switch out that graphics card?
Let's switch it out.
All right. I don't want to push you into the direction you don't want to go.
Nope.
I am open to, I trust you, and you're the professional. We need performance.
Okay, so we got our main components here. I've showed this in videos before. Let me go back to the camera here so that I show the way I like to do it. If you're wondering what all that clapping is, they always have like a morning hype meeting amongst the...
Oh, nice.
Okay, so I like to build the parts in my cart, right? So we have our motherboard, we have our CPU, we have our RAM, we have our power supply, and we have our GPU. But this is the most important stuff. This stuff right here affects your experience. Everything else is just nice to look at.
Right.
So this is where, like I was saying, we focus our money and then we see what we have left.
It's the heart of the system.
Okay, so the store is opened, and the craziest is to come over here so that we make sure we can be heard. So the last main component before we go to the case is your storage. You have a 990 Evo Plus in there, 4 terabyte drive.
All right.
All right, now I know that Merc card would have fit, but I just want to point out the Y60 is quite a bit smaller than the 70. Yeah, that card is realistically like this long. It is insanely long. Okay, let's get this all on the computer. Let's see what we add up to. Let's see if I was able to keep us around the $2,500 mark, because I'll be honest, it's fun to shop and just start throwing things in the cart and then asking for forgiveness later. Anyone that's married knows that. Okay, so I know for a fact somebody's already probably commented, why a 7800 X3D and not a 9800 X3D? And you probably saw as you were choosing parts, it's a big price jump from 7,000 to 9,000 series. Sim racing games are not CPU intensive. So even a 7800 X3D is overkill for what you want, but because of what you're doing, and especially because you're using VR, the graphics card is what's most important for us. And I think this is a good balance. To go to a 9800 X3D bundle, you would have had to have really cut down the graphics card, and that would have made no sense. Now, if you said you were doing a lot of I don't know, Civ or these heavy simulator games that are like model simulations, like these giant worlds, then CPU is very important. But that would have still been plenty of CPU. I mean, 9800 X3D is like 10 to 15% faster than this guy, and that would only be noticeable if you were throwing something like a 5090 on there in 1080p. His most natural upgrade from here would be the monitor. Although it sounds like once you put that Quest on, I mean, that's going to be your screen for the most part. If you're not gaming on the panel and you're just consuming content through that, then maybe not an upgrade that makes sense. But yeah, now you can do 4K gaming with this setup. You know. All right, we need to see what our grand total is here. All right, so here we go. Here's our total.
All right.
2439.81 before tax.
Wow.
And it includes the 7900 XTX, not an XT. So that's why I was saying it's important to
to weigh the brand and how much they're charging, because a lot of brands have there's a brand tax. Like ROG, that's a brand tax. Corsair, there's a brand tax. Some of the things on here that are actually probably somewhat pricey are gonna be these fans. These fans are not cheap, but you're pairing it with the Trinity, which has the controller and stuff to control those fans. Otherwise, you probably would have had to buy a 3-pack just to get the controller you need to use I forget what they call it, the L-Connect software for Lee & Lee, and that is like $100. But we did it. So you got your 4TB drive, you got your 7800X3D, a 7900 XTX, your B650 board, your 1000-watt power supply with its platinum cybernetics rating, your 360 AIO, the Y60 white and black edition. And again, 64 gigs of RAM for the scenario you described would not have benefited you. It just would have cost you more money for the sake of saying you have 64 gigs of RAM. So the 32 in here is perfectly fine. And again, versus that G-Skill that was in the bundle, you're going from CL36 down to CL30 at the same mega transfer, so even less latency there, which is going to be nice. It does show up in games. And then a bunch of the little stuff like the fans and the extension cables. And then one thing that wasn't in your initial list that we had to add because of the card we changed to is another white extension, because this card uses 3 8-pin PCI Express where that kit only has 2 of them. So there we go. Let's go ring this up. Okay, so we have a total here with tax and after employee pricing, so I'm hugely thankful for Micro Center doing that for us, $2,468.72. Wow. So before any of the adjustments and stuff, it was almost $2,800. So this is a pretty solid system for that price. This will last you for many years. When are you gonna build it?
Today, we're gonna work on that.
We're gonna hold you to that, because if you build it fast enough, you can send me pictures and they can make it into the video.
Let's do it.
So, Roberto, thank you so much for coming to the event. Hopefully you enjoyed yourself. I think you probably left there the happiest guy, to be honest. See, it pays to show up on the second day, right? All right, guys, thanks for watching. Huge thanks to Micro Center for allowing us to come and turn the store upside down as we're coming up with an awesome prize here. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next one.